Okay, well, since we're live, I guess I'll get this party started. Welcome to the third episode of Messed Up Hearts. We'll start with Megan and we'll do a round of introductions.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm 32, living with HLHS. I live in Orlando, and I'm an IEP advocate.
I'm Amanda. I have hypoplastic right heart syndrome, tricuspid atresia, ASD, VSD, and I live in Ohio. And that's me.
I'm AJ. I'm 34. I have hypoplastic right heart, a pulmonary atresia, single ventricle, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Laura. I'm 36, classic tricuspid atresia, single ventricle, and I just so happen to be a special education teacher. So Megan and I ironically have some jobs that also help us with this topic of navigating education, 504s, and IEPs.
I guess we can start with if we've had IEPs in school and things like that. So, Amanda, you want to start?
I actually did not have any 504 plan or IEPs in school.
I did not either.
Interesting.
Not at all. But I will say my mom was the secretary of the high school, so every time I was in school, she was always a first call. So if I ever needed anything, so she was always right there. So maybe that's why I didn't have some things that other people had.
I did have a IEP for speech. The story goes I was 3 years old and my mother, who is a die-hard Pepsi fan, asked me what I wanted for breakfast. And I said, Coke. And she said, no, we don't have soda for breakfast. And I said, Coke, please. And she started to get a little frustrated. And she was like, Laura, no, we don't have Coke for breakfast. And then I said, I want Coke, the tough with the butter and the jam. So I did technically have an IEP for 6 years for speech. When I was able to say world at age 9, I felt like I owned the world. It was great. But I also had a 504 plan my entire public educational career. Part of that was my mom was a teacher as well as a special education teacher. So she knew 504 law pretty well and wanted me to have one my entire educational career.
Nice. I also had an IEP. The most I really remember is through high school. I got extra time between classes to walk to class and extra time on my tests. I was able to also take my tests in a quiet room, so I didn't, because I got distracted very easily. But then I graduated and I did not use it in college. Unfortunately, I wish I did.
Yeah, my 504 plan, I feel like was more physically related. Ironically, like my brain works really well compared to my other organs that did or did not form properly. So my 504 was to accommodate PE classes growing up. And then in high school, it became very beneficial because we had a state law where if you missed 10 or more days, it was an automatic fail. So my 504 plan gave me unlimited time to make up assignments or complete work if I was absent, which also was very handy in middle school. I ended up getting bronchitis and pneumonia back to back and actually did an entire trimester of 7th grade at home by myself. I also spent 8 weeks of my senior year at home and also did a lot of homeschooling. I could have technically had like homebound education, but I was able with teachers' notes and textbooks complete the assignments at a good level.
For Amanda and AJ, do you guys wish you had an IEP or if it would have helped you in school?
I went to a really small school, so my school was a one level. It had like maybe 270 people in the whole high school. So I mean, I went to a, I was, my hometown is a town of like 2,200 people. So I didn't have to walk very far. The middle school and the high school are literally a parking lot across from each other. So, no, I mean, I think I was stuck. That's not the right word. I don't mean it like that. I think I was in a special like reading speech class like one time, but I didn't have like anything that told me to do it. I think I just went there and they were okay with that. And I think it really helped me in biology, that's for sure. But other than that, it probably would help me in English because I cannot talk and I have a little bit of a stutter. Well, my dad has a stutter, but I can't like put words together sometimes. I don't know how to explain it right. But my brain thinks faster than my mouth, so sorry about that. My son is eating and wants to talk right now. I mumble and stuff like that, but I should have been in a speech class, but I never was. But it probably would have helped me a lot, actually.
I'm the exact same way. I probably should have been in something, but I wasn't. Yes, long time ago, but I manage now.
Everything?
Yeah, we're back up.
Okay. I guess we can talk about the difference between an IEP and a 504. Take it away, Laura.
Oh, great. So both 504, which is protected under the Americans with Disability Act, Section 504 of the law, and an IEP or an individualized education plan are state and federal laws. Any child with a heart condition technically qualifies under the qualifying category of OHD or OHI, which stands for other health disabilities or other health impairments. So I was kind of like a shoo-in, with my half heart for having a 504. And the difference is a 504 gives you accommodations and modifications within a school setting. An IEP can give you those same modifications and accommodations, but it also means that you need specialized educational services in one of the core areas, such as reading, writing, or math. Megan, anything to add from your expertise?
Nah, girl, you hit it right on the head there.
I would say that most CHDers, especially those maybe with a single ventricle, would benefit from some sort of a 504 plan. Maybe not early on, maybe later, or maybe vice versa. But it does help just evening, we like to say like evening out the playing field of education.
For sure. At least a 504 would help.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So when would you typically have a child start an IEP or a 504 plan? And which one would they start with first? Or can they have both?
You can't have both. It depends on what they need, really. If they're more of the reading, writing, math, like Laura said, you want to start the IEP process as soon as possible. If it's more the accommodations and things like that, you can start the 504 process. The 504 is easier to get than the IEP. I will say that.
You say easier or harder?
Easier.
Okay.
The IEP process in the state of Florida is difficult. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I would say like if you have a young child, and by young child, I'm going to say under 5 with CHD, and you're noticing some not reaching of developmental milestones, or maybe more difficulty with gross or fine motor. Maybe your child has already been evaluated for an IEP, because you can get services on a family plan starting birth to 3. And then that evolves as they enter education. And then by age 9 in most states, they would then get some sort of a more learning disabled diagnosis. A 504 plan, as soon as you enroll your child into school, you can say, hey, my child has a health condition. I would like to request a 504 plan for accommodations.
Mhm. And they legally have to start that process.
Correct.
Yes.
And if you suspect learning difficulties or cognitive difficulties, it is also your right as a parent to request your child be evaluated for an IEP as soon as possible. And then they legally have to start that process as well.
Yes.
As Megan says, it does take a bit more to get an IEP, because you have to go through standardized testing and qualify by state law.
Yes. Depending on each state, it's probably different. But in the state of Florida, you have to do 6 weeks of data to even start the process.
So is each state going to be different for qualifications for these programs?
Yes.
Mhm.
And is there something that maybe college students could use or have? It's similar, or do they do those too?
You can take your IEP to college.
Or a
I
504.
wish or your 504. I wish I knew that. I had no idea. But as you go up from elementary to middle to high, the accommodations kind of lower depending on the school, the state, things like that. But you can fight for what you need, basically. Especially in college. I would definitely have wished I'd fought more for that, because I could have definitely used it.
Most colleges or universities have some sort of a Office of Disability Affairs or Office of Accommodations or Accessibility. I actually worked at my college office. They called it Disability Affairs because I actually got paid to be a note taker. So from like the opposite end, but I was obviously taking notes for someone who most likely had a 504 or an IEP in high school and needed that accommodation of a copy of notes.
Mhm.
And again, I have no cognitive or intellectual disabilities, and I'm a nerd. I paid really great attention and took really great notes.
Works out.
But every college or university, including community colleges, should have some sort of office like that. I can't speak necessarily for private, but at least public schools.
Mhm.
Now, we did have a question come in. What's your take on homeschooling kindergarten for a heart warrior? Person is considering and leaning towards homeschooling for 1 year. They've always stayed at home with them. He gets tons of interaction with kiddos. Just curious on everyone's take on that. And he has not had any delays so far. He's a single ventricle. What do you guys think about that?
If he's getting socialization outside, then I feel like that's perfectly fine. I mean, I feel like COVID really changed a lot of things. Where, I mean, COVID is scary for us heart warriors for sure. So if you're more comfortable for that first year homeschooling, I say go for it, especially if he's already getting the social aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal and family decision. I know for my family, they were debating to enroll me in our public school or do continue with the private, like Catholic preschool that I went to. And my sister had done that private Catholic school for kindergarten. But ultimately, well, 2 reasons, but ended up going to public school because at that time, kindergarten was an every other day program. So it actually gave me more time at home to rest than a 5-day school week would have. And going into my kindergarten year, my family knew that I was having at least my hemifontan. It turned out to be like a month and a half long process in finalizing my Fontan. So I missed a real big chunk of my kindergarten year, but I will say, especially going through a surgery, which I don't have very many memories of, I do remember the giant yellow banner that my kindergarten class made and sent to the children's hospital. So I wouldn't say that I had the perfect kindergarten experience, and I missed a lot of school actually growing up due to various illnesses or surgeries.
I will say for the state of Florida, private schools do not have to follow the IEP. So that is one thing that is very hard, that a lot of parents end up choosing public school because private schools do not follow the IEP. They're not legally have to.
State of Washington, they do.
State of Florida, they don't.
We got another question that came in. This one's for Laura and Megan. What kinds of things did you get for your IEP? And was that specific to your CHD or?
For me, so it was specific to my CHD. I got extra time walking to and from class for middle and high school. I also got extra time on my tests and assignments. I got distracted very easily, so I was able to take extra time. I also did not have to carry my books, which was kind of nice. I was able to leave them in each classroom, even though I didn't want to be different and didn't use that accommodation. I was also allowed to use the elevators in our school. I chose not to. Again, I did not want to be different, but I always had the option to, which was nice. But those were specific to my CHD for sure.
Yeah, mine, I don't remember so much about my 504 plan in elementary school, but I know that my 504 plan, it was more connected to a health plan. So it was certain protocols put in place by my family. You know, if I exhibit blue lips, you call this person. If it's this, you call 911. Part of that plan also included doctor's notes that I was on Coumadin and that I would bruise easier. In middle school, I know that my 504 plan got me out of physical education classes. And I know that that was something that my mother did to protect me and also to protect my nerdy 4.0 GPA. Looking back, if I was my mom and would have done things differently, I would have had the 504 be that gym class was graded pass fail. And I think I would have enjoyed participating, but at a modified level. However, I really did enjoy that I got extra electives in middle school, and I took 2 years of shop class, which was really fun. High school, again, it got me out of the state requirements of physical education to graduate. And more importantly, it gave me, both in middle and high school, the opportunities to make up any missing work that I missed due to absences. And again, I'm a nerd, so I had a pretty high GPA in both middle and high school.
I was just gonna ask you about like gym class stuff, were you
Yeah.
allowed to like not run, I guess, well, for me, they had weightlifting and gym. So I mean, like, were you like, get to skip out on that or anything like that?
So as Laura said, I didn't have it on my IEP. My mom was actually the school nurse, so I kind of got out of things anyway. For gym, I only had to walk the mile instead of run it. I was able to sit out whenever I felt like it, but I did still participate in gym. I just didn't lift like weights and things like that. Just softball, soccer, the normal stuff we do.
Yeah, I participated too, which I lived in a small town, like I said. So everyone knew my heart condition. Everyone knew my mom. So if I ever got tired playing kickball, or we called it mat ball in the gym, which it's like kickball with the mats. I would get tired. I'd just sit out for a while. The teachers all knew me. I got yelled at a lot because I always walked the mile until my mom got a hold of the teacher. Then he was really nice to me after that. So ran a lot. Very slow mile, very slow, but I didn't care. These passed. And then in weightlifting, they would never let me do anything over my chest because of my scar, which is okay. Okay, it's because I was ingrained in my mind if I ever break my sternum, then it'd be really, really hurt me. So I didn't want to do that anyways. But other than that, I always participated in the gym. But I lived in a small town, so they all knew if I needed to take breaks, I took breaks.
Say I participated in gym also, and I was the type of person that, I could do everything. I was normal too, as long as, everyone else, no one knew that I had a heart issue. So, but my only problem was that I had to go to the bathroom a lot, just so I could take a break for myself, on doing stuff. And it's got to be kind of a joke for a while, but it kind of worked out right for me.
See, and ironically, Amanda, on my 504, it said that I could go to the bathroom whenever I wanted. And part of that is I was also born with a single kidney. So especially after times where I've had like a procedure with contrast, never wanted to be penalized for having to go to the bathroom.
Do you wish, Megan, that you would have took advantage of all those things that you didn't take advantage nowadays now? You regret not taking advantage of like the elevators, and because I would have took advantage of them like crazy. I love elevators, so
I think it was more of the fact that I was already bullied for my voice, that I didn't want to add anything to it. So I yeah, I had extra time to walk to class, but I'm a fast walker as it is, so I didn't really use it. But I would get to class like like huffing and puffing the whole time, but I would make it there on time. Um, but I don't know if it was always also ingrained with me that if you're on time, you're late kind of thing. And that still entails in me today. So I don't know if I took that and ran with it, but yes and no. Like, granted, now that I know a few other people in my high school that had a CHD, I wish we were like friends back then, but like I didn't know until after we all graduated. So we could have all banded together and took the elevator.
I wonder if anyone else had ADHD in my high school. I mean, they probably would have known. We probably would have known because we were such a small school. But
Mhm.
I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see. I
Yeah,
know
everyone.
I know
Yeah,
they're putting it in TV shows more with
yeah.
people with ADHD. Because
What's
my wife watches Grey's Anatomy, and
mhm.
they had an episode with I think he was in a play and he fell off and he had transposition of the great arteries, I think, or something like that. So that was kind of cool. I was like, hey, CHT guy. But that's every time I see something on TV, I'm like, cool, that's me. That's us.
Yeah, the only time I actually reached, people actually reach out to me, was like, oh yeah, I have this, this, and this from high school, was after I made my heart page. And I was like, man, I wish we knew that in high school, but it's coming out more, which is great.
Like as an adult now, and compared to like when I was a child, I really wish that, you know, my parents or my mom would took advantage of the IEP or 504 plan. I think that probably really would have helped me out a lot when I was younger, but I was just kind of, to the point when I was younger, I was kind of strong-minded and I can do anything.
I mean, I will say, and I think this is probably part of my sassy yet adorable personality, but I will say if you do have an IEP or 504 plan for your child, Also at age appropriate milestones to educate them about their IEP and their 504 plan, because I was very aware in middle school that one of my accommodations was extra time, or that I could make up work if I missed it because I was sick or hospitalized. And we like to think that teachers, and I am a teacher, read all of the IEPs and 504 plans of their scholars, but that's not necessarily true. My math teacher in 8th grade, I will put you on blast, Miss Cook, had a policy that if you missed math class on the day of a test, you could not make it up. And I missed math class once on the day of the test because the afternoon before I passed out in class. My mom picked me up, took me to the doctor's. We ended up 2 hours south at the emergency room at the children's hospital. We didn't get discharged until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So my mom did not go to work the next day, and I did not go to school the next day. So when I did show back up at school, I went to my math teacher and I said, "Hey, I know that I missed a test. When would it be convenient for you for me to make this up?" I explained that I was in the hospital. She told me, "Nice try. What a wonderful story you just made up." So then the next day, I went back to her with my hospital bracelet and a copy of my 504 plan. I got to make up the test.
See, as you get older, you're allowed to attend your meetings. So I wish I took advantage of that, attending the meetings with my parents.
I never remember attending a meeting. I just remember my mom saying, "Here, sign this."
Yeah, like you can attend, the kids can attend the meeting if you want them to, especially if they know what you're talking about.
Yeah, or why
basically.
we're having the meeting.
Why we're having the meeting, yes.
We do have another question that just came in. Someone had joined in late and they're new to all the IEP and 504 plans. Can you kind of explain it again in the simple terms?
You said it beautifully last time, Laura, go for it.
So a 504 plan is for accommodations and modifications. An IEP, or an individualized education plan, you can have the same accommodations and modifications, but you also need specialized education services, meaning that you need something beyond what a general education classroom teacher does in order to help reading, writing, or math. An added layer of complexity with an IEP are also adding on related services such as occupational therapy, speech language therapy, and sometimes physical therapy are usually the top three that I can think of right now. A person with the CHD should automatically qualify for a 504 because of other health disability. Same could be a qualification for an IEP, but then they would need to undergo cognitive and academic testing to see if there is an academic need. Again, reading, writing, and math are typically the three academic areas that an IEP serves.
You can also add like a behavior intervention plan if your child does have those things with your IEP. But those also, like Laura said, need more testing and documentation and data and all that stuff.
No, I wish I would have had one because I had so much trouble with reading and writing. So much trouble. I always said it was my laziness, but I think it was just because I didn't want to do it. But since I went back to school, back to college when I was in my, oh my goodness, my late 20s, and I did online school, and I noticed it was much easier to do it when I did it myself. So I wish I would have had that more help. But I also had a question for you ladies. I know you guys work in that, and I know you have a degree in it, Megan. Has it changed a lot since you guys had it to now? Like
Yeah.
the
Well,
specifications?
so I had an IEP in the state of Michigan, and now I'm an IEP advocate in the state of Florida. So it's very different. Florida has a lot of rules that Michigan did not have. So it's interesting to see the difference in the states, also with the counties, because I live in Lake County versus Orange County. They're two different things, which is so weird. But like Lake County, you're allowed to have a registered behavioral therapist go with your kid to school, versus Orange County, you're not allowed to. So it's just very interesting and different.
I think when it comes to the simplicity of the laws, it has not really changed. Special education law has been in effect since the 1970s. ADA, Americans with Disability Act laws have been in good effect since the 1990s. And the federal standards for both an IEP and a 504 are in place. But as Megan was saying, each state can do things differently with their education based on state laws. But again, I always can't remember if it's 12 or 13 qualifying categories for 504 and IEP, but other health disability is an automatic qualifying category, and that's protected under federal law. So that should apply in every single state. And AJ, I have a degree in this too.
I just know a Megan because her master's. So I'm sorry. I have a degree in communications, totally far away from what
I
you
have
guys have.
degrees
So
in special education and elementary education.
eventually I'll go for my MBA, but that's totally different than what this is. So
I thought I'd
I
go
know
for a
nothing.
PhD once.
So I know you talked about the behavioral therapist. Why is that you can't have for one plan and not for the other?
It's not for the plan, it was per county. So Lake
Oh.
County allows it, Orange County does not. But there is a bill right now that's going through, possibly for the whole state of Florida, to allow registered behavioral therapists into the school system.
It's so crazy. I mean, that's just why
It's-
one county and one not the other.
It's been a little difficult because a lot of parents have been moving to Lake County just for that, which is unfortunate because Lake County is not that great for a school system, but it's all good. I don't know. This Florida schools are very interesting, and some schools are great, and their ESE specialists are amazing, versus others are just not great. So it all depends on the school, the grade, the teachers, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've always taught in West or Northern states. I taught in the state of Washington, now teaching in the state of Minnesota. And I actually was a service provider for a student you were saying earlier about private schools, because in the state of Washington, at least, if you qualify for an IEP, those services are then provided by your neighborhood public school. And so we would have students who would start their day with us at the public school, get their IEP minutes, and then go to private school, or they would come at the end of the day. So I've never thought about private school being like a non-option if you do need the services of special education, because legally it's an option.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, state of Florida. Public schools, yeah, you got to follow it, but private schools have the choice to follow it, which is very interesting.
Does anyone have any questions they would like us to answer? AJ, did you have any questions?
I'm trying to think one. Sorry, I was getting my son something to do.
I mean, I think I'm not a parent, but thinking from a parent perspective, just know that the laws are on your side and that there are supports in place legally for your child to get the help that they may need, or the accommodations or modifications that would make school easier or more accessible to them. And then from the flip side of, if you know, are raising your child who has an IEP or before, to just keep your child as a part of that process, just like you would doctor's appointments with their cardiologist. Keep them informed of, you know, what's happening to them, why, and then training them up to be the advocate for themselves, because, you know, there will come a certain point where that 504 IEP is going to be pretty worthless unless they want to access the accommodations and the services that it provides. And if they know how and why it benefits them, it's just going to make them more successful. Like Megan was saying, you know, knowing that it could have carried on longer, and how in the long run, like we don't want to be seen as different or have something special, but it's something out there for lots of individuals, not just individuals with heart conditions, and it does make life easier and better.
I would also say if you have upcoming IEP meetings or 504s and you're talking with your, we call it exceptional student education here. I'm not sure what other states call it, but we have a ESE specialist. Make sure you get everything in writing. I know they like to call you, but please make sure you have everything in writing, or else it could be that it never happened.
Just like
How,
everything
how,
else in life.
yeah, exactly. How often are you allowed to change those plans, or do you have to wait like a certain period?
You can change it at any time.
So
Any-
like, if, say for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you know, you got your child doing this and this and this, and then something comes up and you need to change it, you can do that 3 weeks down the road.
Yeah, if it has to be a new accommodation for an IEP, you need data to prove that they need that. So it's all about
On
the grade per state, but for us, the data, and you have to show that they need that accommodation. But for other states, it's not always like that, but you can change the IEP at any time.
Yeah, legally, there's going to be a meeting 364 days after a 504 and IEP is written, but it is also your legal right as a parent, guardian, to call a meeting whenever you would like to see most likely a change in service. Something else I would like to add, and we might get into this in a different episode of Messed Off Parts, but 504 as a federal law does not like expire after 21. IEP law is for education birth to 21. 504 is a lifetime. I currently 36. I am a full-time teacher. I still have a 504 plan. I have a 504 plan at work that gets me air condition at a better temperature for my heart. And it also gives me a little bit more flexibility when I'm not feeling well. I'm also still currently working under my ADA 504 to work from home because of COVID. So 504 really is a great law that can benefit CHDers at any time in our life.
So for instance, since I don't have one, I could probably go get one now.
Yes, you qualify. You just, it's a process for work. You would normally contact your human resources department, and it requires documentation from a doctor saying that you have XYZ condition and that you need ABC accommodation.
Mhm.
Now for, another question came in, for a kid, would the parents contact the school board for the 504
So for
IEP plan?
For the state of Florida, we have we call it the Play Center. It's for Lake County. They do all the testing and things like that to start the process before you even start school. So you can get that at the age of 4, I believe, before you start pre-K. If you're enrolled in school, you can just talk to your, we call it the ESE specialist also. They should help get you started with that.
In my current district, you would contact your school social worker to request the process. You can also ask your child's classroom teacher and just say that you would like to start a special education evaluation process is my wording that I know it by. And when all else fails, call the principal.
So, back to this, being an adult, is it a 504 plan or is that it's actually not a 504 plan for adults, correct? Not an IEP.
It's a 504 because what 504 refers to is the specific section of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
So we just asked our human resources to get it for the paperwork about that. Because my wife's like, you need to get one right now. I'm like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, I would contact Human Resources and say that you would like to request paperwork to file for a 504 accommodation. Legally, they have to provide, oh, I'm blanking on the word for it. You have to be able to perform the essential functions of your job, and they're only legally required to provide reasonable accommodations. The word reasonable can sometimes be tricky. For example, when I first filed a 504 plan in Minneapolis for air conditioning, my building did not have air conditioning. So they thought it was reasonable to ask me to switch jobs with someone in a different building that had air conditioning. My principal did not want to lose me on staff, and we did happen to have 3 computer labs that had air conditioning. So my boss was able to accommodate me without having the 504 filed. But once we got air conditioning, I reapplied for my 504 to have it set at a lower temperature. And just like in an educational setting, you have to reapply or renew these every year.
My wife is always just worried about me taking off time for appointments. So that's the only reason I think she wants me to get it, just to make sure. Because you you have CHD, you have a lot of appointments. I have a couple appointments I've been putting off because I've been so busy. And you should never put appointments off, by the way. You should never do that. But yeah, I've always wanted, because I have to get my liver scanned and all that stuff. So, and I've always talked to my boss. It's always been cool. Once I said I have a heart condition, they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll accommodate you. You're good." So
And I would say most bosses are probably reasonable, especially, if you're a good employee. But when all else fails, know that there's a federal law that protects you.
Yeah, definitely don't want to put off any appointments. I mean, even when you're a kid, you don't want to put that, but as you get older, things start to go downhill. So you need to definitely stay in care no matter what, if you feel well or not. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't think so. Or Megan, do you have anything else to add?
If you need an advocate, I'm right here.
Apparently, I'm really great at ADA Section 504 law, so send me any questions. But no, thank you for joining us on our 3rd episode. We'll be back next month at some point. And Amanda, our topic is Is it transitioning care?
Transitioning into adult care. And it looks like April 11th will be the day. And hopefully one of these times, hopefully within maybe next couple of months, we'll do 2 a month instead of 1 a month. But we've just been kind of busy lately with all of our appointments and crazy stuff.
Adult life.
Adulting is
And
so much fun. Kids,
yeah.
adulting is so much fun.
yes. And if you happen to just kind of join in right now, this will be left on our Facebook page. And when this is over, I will make it public so you guys can share it, save it, watch it, comment. We try and answer questions.
As always, feel free to share with my true American hero, Dolly Parton. Dolly, I think that you sold yourself short by not being inducted into the Music Hall of Fame, but again, just shows how wonderful and humbling you are, Dolly Parton. I would love to go to Dollywood to meet you and to ride some rides. I think you're an incredibly kind and wonderful lady. So thank you, Dolly Parton. I love Dolly. What can I say?
Yes, all of us should be able to go. That'd be awesome.
It's my 36-year-old make-a-wish going to Dollywood and meeting Dolly Parton.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.